All right, so this is when I started filming. Throughout the day, she had contractions that were pretty painful, and when she was having those contractions, she couldn't even talk. And you'll start to see that like they progressively get worse. What's on her phone is an app that she was using to track the duration of the contractions and like the time in between each one, because there's like a typical saying of when the contractions are 1 minute in length, 5 minutes apart within an hour, that's when you should go to the hospital. So that's what we were waiting for.
You'll see that the pain now is getting increasingly harder to bear through, and I use anything around me to help soothe some of those contractions.
Yeah, we had like a few techniques in mind. Like you can see there, I'm rubbing her leg. I was trying to tickle her arm or like comb her hair, and just nothing was really alleviating any of the pain.
Oh, here we go. So these are when I feel like things definitely start to take a harder turn, as we were getting closer to having contractions within that 5-minute window.
Okay, so I'm actually going to pause the camera here, or I'm going to pause the video here. So when what you just saw there, 4:59, that was the labor and delivery room, but you could see that there's a pretty big gap in time from, like midnight until 6, what you're seeing right there on the screen. And in between that time, at like 1:30, I fell asleep, and I was just sleeping on the ground. And then at 3, your mom woke up, and she was like, okay, we need to go to the hospital now.
Yeah, so at 3, I at one point I sat up and I felt something that we did confirm was my water breaking, and at that point my contractions they just skyrocketed in intensity, and now they got to the point where they're 3.5 minutes apart. So I woke your dad up from his sleep on the floor, startling him, telling him, I think you need to call labor and delivery. We need to go.
Yeah, and so I called the hospital, and I was like, okay, her water broke. And she's like, no, I'm not sure if my water broke. I'm like, okay, we're not sure if her water broke. And she's been in contractions like ever since noon or something. And meanwhile, your mom's just like on the toilet yelling at me. She's like, you're saying the wrong things. And I was just completely panicking. It's funny because I felt like we had everything prepared, but then it was really the fact that she woke me up in a stupor, and I was just out of it. So it was hard for me to acclimate. But anyways, we got into the car. That night we had already dropped off Jack at Papa and Grandma Barb's house, because I was expecting that the next day, on Wednesday, wasn't going to be a good day.
I wasn't sure if you were actually serious about coming at this point.
Yeah, she was actually she said we should keep Jack and wait till tomorrow, because you were scheduled to be induced on Wednesday at 5 p.m. So anyways, we hop into the car, drive to the hospital. They put us in a triage room at first, and this whole time your mom is having like really painful contractions, not even talking to me. And then she was sweating, shaking,
Yep.
moaning, groaning. You'll see this in the video. And then at like 5 something, she taps out, and she's like, okay, well, I want to do the epidural. And originally she wanted to go no epidural. But why did you want to do the epidural?
It was not, I wanted to enjoy the process. I wanted to be able to remember what it was like to bring you into this world and get to spend time talking with your dad and enjoying the last few moments with your dad, the two of us, and being excited together versus agonizing and struggling and just being incoherent for the next 5 hours.
Yeah. And when she was like, okay, Gavin, like, I want to do epidural, like, are you okay with that? I was like, I'm fine with it. Like, you're the one who didn't want to do it. So I was like, are you sure you want to do this? I was like, I said safe word because I didn't know if you were saying it just out of pain or like saying it because you actually wanted to do it. And then you're like, yes, I want to do it. So we did the epidural, and then what you're seeing now at 6:30 is the epidural starting to kick in, which is why she's not really writhing in pain anymore. And then the next clip is where things will pick up again once the epidural kicks in. So that's your heartbeat. You were averaging around like 120 or so, and during contractions it would drop down a little bit.
Here we go. Here's the epidural in full effect.
Okay, so you just got the epidural, or you got the epidural, and it finally started kicking in took about 30 minutes or so. But now that you're not violently shaking from pain, how do you feel?
I feel very excited, and I feel really good. I feel relief, and I'm very happy.
Cool.
How do you feel?
I'm pumped, dude. I'm just happy that you could talk to me now.
Right?
Yeah, so I was just pumped that like I could talk to her again. Okay, so I'll pause it again. So after that clip, we sent that clip out to the family and friends, and then the RN or the midwife said that she would come back in 2 hours.
The midwife.
Yeah, so the midwife, once the epidural kicked in, she's like, okay, you're like 6 centimeters dilated.
Uh-huh.
And then she'll check back in 2 hours. So we decided to take a nap finally, because as you could tell, it was going throughout the night. I woke up, midwife came in, checked your mom, and she was at like, 8.5 or so, or were you already at 10?
No, I got checked for the epidural. I was 6, and then about 2 hours later, I was 8.5. And then we waited another 2 hours to get to 10.
Wait, that doesn't make any sense though. We were looking at 7:30 essentially. We slept for 2 hours, and that makes it 9:30.
She checked me at 10 a.m. and I was 8.5, and then, or maybe 9:30, and I was 8.5, and then she came back about 10:30. 11 she came back, and I was 10 centimeters, and I started pushing. He was born at noon.
Okay. So yeah, when
roughly.
yeah. When the midwife said, it's time to push, it was just the midwife and a nurse and me. And I was a little confused because I thought, like, at least on the movies, they make it seem like more people would join in this little session. And she was like, no, you just grab her leg and she'll push. I was like, oh crap, here we go. And so your mom was pushing. When she would push during contractions, your heart rate went down pretty low. Like, I think it dipped down to the low 60s, which was alarming for the medical staff.
And it would take a long time for your heart rate to come back to normal after the contractions and pushing were over. And I think that's what concerned them the most, was that it was just taking you a long time to get stabilized again.
Yeah, so then they proposed, like, as an option for them to use the vacuum if need be. So it's essentially like a vacuum that sticks on your head, and then they pull you out as Hannah pushes you. But they ended up not needing to do it because your mom beasted it and pushed you out. I got to see your head cresting and you squirming out, and like the doctor grabbed your head and literally was like wiggling and yanking you pretty aggressively, and then your body followed afterwards as like a little gloopy worm that just oozed out of your mom. And then this is where the video continues.
They put you directly onto my chest.
Sweet.
Oh, and they made sure to get all the gunk out of your mouth. You had a good cry right away.
I got to cut your umbilical cord.
I was just in pure joy, bliss moment. Couldn't believe you were actually.
And that is actually you.
That's you.
That's you crying right now as we're filming this or recording this voiceover. But look at how cone heady your head was because it was super malleable, super soft, and it was in your mom's birth canal. Is that where it was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's why I had that shape. And the eye flutter, it's your nerves starting to fire and your muscles starting to kick in. Never really used your eyes before.
7 pounds flat.
Yep, 7 pounds even.
20 inches long. And that's the first time your daddy's holding you.
That was the first picture of all three of us.
Our family. And that was the first time you ate a meal. And that's your big brother, Jack.
He didn't really care about you.
He likes you.
He told you he wouldn't
He just didn't know what to do. And this is how we spent most of our days and will continue to spend, just snuggling and letting you sleep.
That was your first walk. It's exciting.
I love to wear you like that. Snuggle close. Lots of early mornings.
Look at those lips. Look at those lips.
We have a camera roll full of your face.
Look at those lips. Oh, man. Everybody just sleeping on daddy. And that's you while I was making this video.